Okay, good morning. First, as we do, we'd like to acknowledge the first peoples of this unceded land which we occupy currently, and with respect to their elders, past and present, we recognize the Chumash, the Quiche, the Serrano, the Tataviam, and the Tongva as the original stewards of this land, air, and water, and we provide our support as they continue to lift up their stories and cultures. Good morning, I'm Supervisor Janice Hahn. I'm the current chair of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. I'm joined by my colleague, Supervisor Hilda Solis, who represents Monterey Park, as well as our district attorney, George Gascon, and Alhambra Mayor Adele Andrade Stadler. And we will be joined shortly by our colleague, Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. It has been just weeks since the Monterey Park community was devastated by the worst mass shooting in Los Angeles County history. We remain heartbroken, but my colleagues and I are also as determined as ever to do everything in our power to fight the gun violence epidemic and protect our residents. Today, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors will consider 4 gun violence prevention motions. 2 that I have authored, 1 that Supervisor Solis has authored, and 1 that Supervisor Lindsay Horvath has authored. We know that the heart of the problem lies with the failure of congressional leaders to pass even the most basic federal gun laws. But we've also found actions that we can take at the county level to protect our residents. One of my motions today, co-authored by Supervisor Solis, includes 4 new LA County ordinances. The first bans the sale of .50 caliber guns and ammunition in unincorporated county. These are the giant bullets designed for combat that make killing easy because of the damage they do to the human body. The second ordinance prohibits anyone who is not law enforcement or active military from carrying firearms on our Los Angeles County property. That would include our beaches, our parks, our playgrounds, and our county buildings. The third ordinance, which will need to be prepared by our Department of Regional Planning, would establish a 1,000-foot buffer zone in unincorporated areas between gun stores and areas where children gather, like schools, parks, daycare centers. And the fourth ordinance, which will need to be prepared by our treasurer tax collector, will make gun dealers in unincorporated areas follow common sense rules, including not allowing minors in gun stores, requiring them to maintain a fingerprint log, requiring dealers to install and maintain security cameras, and requiring dealers to keep an up-to-date inventory, and requiring them to notify purchasers and customers of the dangers of guns. These are important steps I believe that we need to take to better protect our residents from gun violence. And I urge cities across the county to adopt similar ordinances in their cities. One of the things we're doing today is urging Congress to pass a common sense ban on assault weapons. But in the event that they fail once again to do that, we in LA County are acting anyway. We're taking every action within our power to save lives. And now I'd like to introduce a supervisor who represents the 1st District, Supervisor Hilda Solis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to thank our DA, Mr. Gascon, and also the Mayor of Alhambra, which I also represent, who we will be hearing from, and hopefully we'll also hear from the mayor or representative from Monterey Park City Council. You know, it wasn't long ago, this past Saturday marked 2 weeks since the city of Monterey Park experienced a senseless act of gun violence, with 11 people tragically losing their lives and another 9 being injured. According to the Gun Violence Archive, there have been 59 mass shootings in the United States since the start of the new year, 38 days ago. This amounts to almost 2 mass shootings events a day. 2 mass shootings a day, let that sink in. This, as you know, is unacceptable. Gun-related violence will continue to cause mass trauma and harm if we do not take the necessary steps at all levels of government. Following my recent action to declare gun violence as a public health crisis last week, I have introduced a separate motion to support 2 of Senator Feinstein's bills. The assault weapons ban, which would ban the sale, transfer, manufacture, and importation of military-style assault weapons and high-capacity magazines with other high-capacity ammunition-feeding devices. And the Age 21 Act, which would raise the minimum age to purchase assault weapons from 18 to 21 years of age, the same requirement that currently exists in law for handguns. I have also co-authored several other motions with Chair Janice Hahn and Supervisor Lindsay Horvath to strengthen gun regulations right here at home in LA County. And you know, statistics show that when the national ban, previously championed by Senator Feinstein and then Senator President Joe R. Biden, was in place, mass shootings significantly decreased, but tripled when it expired. Today, living in the United States of America means being at risk of becoming a victim of a mass shooting. Time is of the essence, and we must act now. Our communities are counting on our leaders to make significant changes to our gun laws, such as Alhambra High School students who have advocated for gun safety reform as well. And with that, I intend to continue to do so. I want to uplift the calls of our community members who are demanding that change. While there's still much more that we don't understand about the mass shooting in Monterey Park, the suspect's motive, and I know that we still have to keep those hearts in mind of those people that lost their lives and the families that are still suffering. They stay resilient, and we will continue to fight on for those communities. We at the County of Los Angeles, along with the leadership of Governor Gavin Newsom and President Joe Biden, will remain committed to protecting our communities. Before I turn this over to DA Gascon, I will say something briefly in Spanish. Ya saben que en los 2 semanas pasados, la tragedia en la ciudad de Monterey Park tomó 11 personas que perdieron sus vidas. Sabemos que hay mucho miedo de morir un tiroteo masivo como que pasó en la ciudad de Monterey Park. En este año ha habido sido casi 59 tiroteos masivos. La violencia con las armas de fuego va a continuar causando mucho daño y trauma a nuestras comunidades. Si no se hacen los cambios necesarios en las leyes para proteger estas comunidades. Por eso estamos declarando que la violencia de armas de fuego es una emergencia de salud pública. Hoy voy a introducir una moción para apoyar 2 leyes que la senadora Feinstein ha ponido. Esta moción va a prohibir la venta, traspaso, creación y importación de armas de asalto estilo militar y otras municiones de alta capacidad. También la edad mínima para comprar un arma de asalto va a cambiar desde 18 años a 21 años. El tiempo de actuar es hoy, aquí en el condado de Los Ángeles, con la ayuda del gobernador Gavin Newsom y el presidente Joe Biden. Estamos tomando las acciones necesarias para proteger a nuestras comunidades. Con eso, muchas gracias y ahora me da mucho gusto introducir el DA, señor Gascon. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our DA, Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon.
Thank you, Supervisor. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to first of all thank Madam Chair Hahn, Supervisor Solis, and Supervisor Horvath for their leadership in this issue. I also want to thank the Mayor of Monterey Park, Jose Sanchez, who is standing here in solidarity with us behind these efforts after the horrendous incident that occurred in Monterey Park at the Star Ballroom dance floor right during the community's Lunar New Year Festival. My office will continue to work with Monterey Park. We will continue to lead with our victim services and ensure that all those that are in need of assistance will have the assistance that they need today, tomorrow, and for as long as they need to. I also want to extend my gratitude to Mayor Adele Andrade Stadler of Alhambra for her attendance and support. Thanks to Brandon Sa, who bravely disarmed the gunman at his family's Lele Ballroom studio, we avoided another tragedy. But you know, while we're grieved the 11 lives that were mercifully taken from us, I know that those that have family members and loved ones, including the ones at Half Moon Bay, Oakland, and more recently at the Beverly Crescent neighborhood, and so many others know through their tragic experience, the gun violence epidemic that we face today has created a national health emergency, and we must demand action. We know that most Americans support responsible regulations, and this is not a partisan issue. This is a human issue. We should all support the efforts of our Board of Supervisors today. They are common sense, and they are necessary in order to protect our community. Each year, tens of thousands of individuals are killed and injured in shootings. My office has and will continue to fight gun violence. We work with our state legislature. We're partnering with law enforcement to make sure that those that are not supposed to have weapons do not. We enforce Proposition 63, and we have been at the leading, fighting credit card companies to ensure that they stop processing payments for ghost guns. The social, emotional, and physical and mental health impact of gun violence on children's, families, and communities creates a traumatizing ripple effect that can't be overstated, and it creates more violence and crime. My office is committed to continuing the fight to reduce gun violence in our community, but this is a solution that requires that we all work together. What the Board of Supervisors is doing today is sensible, is showing strength, leadership, and character, and we all must stand behind them. Before I introduce Mayor Joe Sanchez from the Monterey Park City, I'd like to say a few words in Spanish as well. Primero que nada, quiero darle las gracias a los miembros de la mesa del condado, la señora Hahn, la señora Solis y la señora Horvath, por su liderazgo en tratar de traerse un sentido de comunidad y de ver cómo podemos resolver la violencia que está impactando nuestra comunidad con la propagación de armas de fuego. También quiero dar las gracias al alcalde José Sánchez de la ciudad de Monterey Park, que sufrieron este incidente horrendo en el Star Ballroom, cuando 11 personas de nuestra comunidad perdieron su vida. Mi oficina está continuando su trabajo con la ciudad de Monterey Park y con las víctimas, y continuaremos nuestro trabajo con ellos para asegurarnos de que todos aquellos que están impactados por este trauma reciben los servicios que requieren. También quiero dar las gracias al alcalde Adele Andrade Stadler de la ciudad de Alhambra por estar aquí apoyándonos, y sobre todo al señor Brandon Sa, que con mucho coraje y mucho valor paró a este señor que estaba matando gente en el ballroom el Lele Ballroom, que era un negocio de su familia. Nosotros sabemos que estamos aquí todos con condolencias para las 11 víctimas que se perdieron en Monterey Park y también las víctimas que fallecieron en Half Moon Bay, en Oakland y en Los Ángeles. Pero sabemos, como saben todas las familias de estas víctimas, que esto es una epidemia de salud pública nacional y todos debemos demandar acción. Sabemos que esto es una cosa que todos en este país, o la mayoría en este país, apoyan, que no es una cosa de partidaria, es simplemente una cuestión humana, y por eso lo que está haciendo la Junta Ejecutiva del Condado hoy merece su apoyo. Sabemos que hay miles de personas todos los años que son asesinadas por la violencia causada por las armas de fuego, y mi oficina continuará peleando con todos aquellos que podemos juntarnos para asegurarnos de que esta epidemia se acaba. El impacto social, emocional y físico en la salud de nuestras comunidades es algo que no solamente traumatiza a aquellos que tienen directamente el impacto, pero sabemos que traumatiza a toda la comunidad y crea más crimen y violencia. Y por eso yo estoy comprometido a ayudar a la Junta Ejecutiva del Condado y todos aquellos en nuestra comunidad para parar esta violencia. Lo que está haciendo la Junta Ejecutiva hoy es algo que se ve de gran valor, de esfuerzo y de carácter, y lo debemos apoyar. Now I'd like to introduce the Mayor of the City of Monterey Park, José Sánchez.
I'd like to invite my fellow council member, Mr. Thomas Wong, who's also council member in Monterey Park. My name is Jose Sanchez, and I'm the mayor of Monterey Park, and I wish to start off by thanking Supervisor Solis, Horvath, and Hahn, and our DA, Gascon, for being here this morning, and for their resolution and their commitment to public safety. On behalf of the residents of Monterey Park and throughout the country, we thank you for your efforts to try to curb the epidemic of gun violence in this country. It's hard to believe that just 17 days ago, our community of Monterey Park suffered one of its biggest tragedies in its history, when a gunman opened fire in a dance studio full of people singing, dancing, and celebrating life. It was supposed to be the beginning of the Lunar New Year, which is a time of celebration and being with family. But that evening of January the 21st, many people perished and many others were injured. Since this tragic day, our community has been gripped with grief and loss. But we have created countless vigils, masses, remembrances for the victims and their families, and to provide a space for our community to heal. Aside from being mayor of my town, I'm also a classroom teacher in my community. And having to return the following day after a mass shooting in our community was one of the hardest things I've had to do as a teacher. But I quickly realized that that day was going to be like no other. It was not a day of instruction, like most people would expect, but rather a day of remembrance. My classroom of 36 students was not a room of work, but a shrine of hope. During that week, we had difficult conversations about death, about gun control, and also about a sense of duty. Duty is why we are here today. We are here committed to the task of preventing mass murder by assault rifles and high-capacity magazines that have plagued our country like COVID did during the pandemic. This series of mass shootings that have since happened, including Half Moon Bay, are plaguing our society like a disease, and we need a vaccine to remedy our disease and our addiction to guns. Every year, tens of thousands of people die senselessly at the hands of guns. In 2018, after the Parkland, Florida shooting, my students in Alhambra drafted a gun control resolution, which they presented then to Congresswoman Judy Chu, and she presented on the House floor as House Resolution 1076. Today, because I teach civics, my students are drafting a new resolution that they hope to present to many elected officials that mirrors a lot of the great work that our supervisors are already doing. They hope to present it to local elected officials, including the President of these United States. It calls for the complete banning of assault rifles and high-capacity magazines. You see, the battle for preservation of life is not just reserved to those of us here today, but rather to all peoples, including young students who desire nothing more than to live. I have 3 children of my own, a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-year-old, who also attend these schools, who also live in our community. And the preservation of life is one of my largest priorities. So let us take this moment in history to ensure that the people in my city of Monterey Park did not die in vain, but rather that their lives will continue to be celebrated and remembered. And let us pay tribute to their lives here today by committing to each other that we will do everything in our power to ensure that no other community is afflicted by mass shootings. And let us commit to each other here today that we will work together, not just to bind our wounds and sow the seeds of peace and love, because love is needed, but exhaust all of our resources to find a cure to our addiction to guns. To this valuable work, let us strive and pray as we fulfill the Lord's promise. I thank you for your time, and I thank the supervisor, Hilda Solis, and all our supervisors, including our friend, our DA, Gascon, who's been more than helpful during this process. Thank you.
My name is Adele Andrade Stadler, Mayor of the City of Alhambra, gateway to the San Gabriel Valley. I'm a former school board member for Alhambra Unified School District, a mother, and an early childhood educator. I want to thank Chairwoman Hahn and Supervisor Solis for creating and supporting the reintroduction to the Assault Weapons Ban Act by Senator Feinstein. There is no doubt that Senator Feinstein would be the appropriate legislator to be reintroducing this due to the first-hand experience of gun violence witnessed by her with the murder of her colleague Harvey Milk in the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Each year, countless lives suffer devastating injuries and worse, loss of life, like in Monterey Park, my hometown. Our friends to the south, we continue to stay with you. As an educator, mothers, elected officials, grandmothers, we must stand together and fight back on assault weapons. Thank you very much. And now, Assistant Sheriff Holly Francisco.
Good morning. The sheriff wanted to be here today to support the Board of Supervisors, but he's in Washington, D.C. on a work trip. I just want to say on behalf of the sheriff, he supports common sense gun laws and limiting access to firearms. He believes the status quo is not working, and that's evident by the amount of mass shootings occurring around the nation. Our department has several proactive events that we do, gun buybacks, which last year we recovered approximately 500 firearms, some assault rifles. We also have an armed prohibited person teams that works with the Department of Justice, and just last year alone, they recovered 200 guns. And then our patrol and detectives in the LA County Sheriff's Department recovered almost 7,000 guns off the streets of LA County, which shows you how many guns are actually out there. And we also take educating the public seriously, whether it's through our community watch groups or our social media platforms. But bottom line, the sheriff supports moving forward to do what we can and speak for these victims. Thank you, and we will continue to partner in an attempt to make our communities a safer place. Supervisor Horvath?
Good morning, everyone. I first want to start by thanking my colleagues, Supervisor Solis and Supervisor Hahn, for their work in promoting gun safety and good, smart measures for every community in Los Angeles County. And we're here today to say that we must do everything possible to keep people safe in our community and fight gun violence at every opportunity we have. For me, this is not just about policy. This is personal. As a child, I watched one of my dear friends lose his life because his parents did not lock up their guns in their house. He got into them, taunted by his friends, and was able to access a gun from his parents' closet that they thought was hidden, they thought was out of his reach, but it wasn't. And he no longer is alive today. And there isn't a day in their lives where their hearts don't break about that reality, something that was within their control to keep their child safe. And as an adult, my brother attended the Route 91 concert in Las Vegas, and while he and his girlfriend were among the lucky ones who survived, we know that many did not. The senseless attacks on our communities, when we have in our control the tools to keep people safe, must stop. We must stand strong, and I am grateful for all of our partners gathered here today. Moms Demand, our friends at Everytown who reached out and helped us draft all of this legislation to keep Los Angeles County that much safer. Today, we will make sure that our motions today will help explore a liability requirement to hold accountable gun owners for what happens with their guns. It will require safe storage measures. It will make sure that we are, once again, placing signs where guns are sold as reminders of the dangers of guns when people are purchasing, that they have a responsibility and a duty to keep themselves and others safe, and that we stand together in creating a uniform database of gun owners to make sure that not only are we keeping people safe in our communities, but also that our first responders, when they're showing up to the scene after a call, that they know if guns are present at that call. We need to make sure that everyone is kept safe. We've had too much heartbreak. We know we extend all of our condolences, our love, and support to our friends in Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay and Benedict Canyon. And the fact that we can say that many places just here in California in the past couple of weeks is absolutely heartbreaking. That's why we have to take action, and this board is taking action today.
I think with that, we may have one or two questions, and then we have to adjourn this moment because we have to go and conduct business at the Board of Supervisors and hopefully gather the support we need to get this package of bills passed today.
Supervisora, buenos días. Víctor Cordero de Univisión. Nada más si podríamos aclarar un poquito, ¿quieren que las personas que venden armas estén separadas de las escuelas o donde se juntan los niños? ¿Hay alguna distancia en específico en eso? Número uno. Y dos, la pregunta que mucha gente tiene, no se están prohibiendo las armas en general, ¿verdad? Solamente las de 50 calibre o más. Gracias.
Y quiero decir que estas mociones, paquete de leyes, impactan a las áreas que son unincorporated, que no son representantes de las ciudades, porque nosotros tenemos el poder en las áreas de, por ejemplo, el este de Los Ángeles y otras partes del condado, como Rowland Heights, Hacienda Heights también. Y quiero decir que queremos tener una distancia. No tengo los datos, pero yo sé que casi mejor unos piezas, más o menos 1,000, maybe more feet, que vamos a tener para tener esa distancia. Y esto es una proposición para dar seguridad a la comunidad. Primero, porque ya hemos sufrido bastante aquí en el condado, especialmente en las áreas de Monterey Park y también Alhambra. Hoy día yo estuve leyendo el artículo que escribieron de parte de Brandon Say y me emocioné a saber que un hombre tan humilde defendió la comunidad, porque tal vez íbamos a ver más matanzas también en Alhambra. Yo quiero decir que hay mucha gente buena en la comunidad y ahorita están viendo el poder de la comunidad trabajando juntos. So thank you very much for your questions. And with that, I think we're going to adjourn, and we'll see you up at the top of the meeting. Thank you all, and thank you all for being here with all of us today. Thank you. Thank you.